open up Excel salary graph, it looks like this. Here's the scenario. We have here these employees. I made this all up. This is just all fake, by the way. We have these employees, and our company has offered to pay them these annual salaries. Now, I know that people your age aren't usually that familiar with what they call salaried pay. When you have the kind of job that teenagers usually have, you get hourly pay, right? So you're always talking about $10 an hour, $15 an hour, whatever it is that you are making, okay, is by the hour. But when you hit most career level positions, like the position I'm in, basically you sign a contract to work with that company for a year, and that year they promise to pay you whatever amount of money's in your contract. Now, it doesn't mean that you work the whole year and then they dump like $120,000 on you, because that's not how things work. You got bills you got to pay every month, right? So what they do is they take the amount of money that you are contracted to earn and they divide it by however many pay periods they have. Right? So it all depends. I mean, they could pay you weekly, it doesn't matter. It's whatever they want to do. But as far as a company that pays their employees a salary, an annual salary, this is actually pretty legitimate. If you've ever earned a paycheck, you know that the amount of money you actually make is not the amount of money you actually end up taking home. There's a difference between gross pay and net pay. Well, every business has to figure that out when they pay you, because you got to have some go to taxes, you got to have some go to retirement, wherever it is, or insurance, whatever it is that you've got going on with that company, they make those deductions. But even though all of the facts here are all made up, it's still a really legitimate exercise. All businesses have to do this. So, now the way this is done is actually super simple. All of these equations across the top, or all of these equations in most of the table, are just going to be calculations. They're nothing fancy. The only thing that's kind of quote-unquote fancy on this spreadsheet is the fact that we're going to have an Excel function figure out our totals for us. Now, if you've noticed, this worksheet has little red triangles in some of the corners of some of the cells. Those are what Excel calls a note. And I've put in those notes instructions. To get to the instructions, you just put your mouse over a cell that has a red triangle in the corner. They pop out. In the instructions, in the notes, I've told you basically how that calculation is done. In fact, I tried really hard to make the words in the instructions pretty much describe exactly what you're going to type. For instance, if we want to calculate monthly salary right here, which we do in cell C2, and notice we're calculating monthly salary for Woody Allen, because he's row 2, right? So what do I start with if I want the computer to do something for me like this? Equal sign. Now, do I have to go get that number, or does the computer go get that number for me? You can just type it in. You can either type in B2 or you can just click on it. You just got to know, you got to tell the computer what number you're talking about. It doesn't know what kind of calculations you're trying to do. It's not going to read your mind. You have to tell it where the numbers are. So it's monthly salary, which is what I just clicked on, was monthly salary for Woody Allen, divided by 12. Exactly what the instructions say. And you hit enter and you get how much money Woody Allen's going to make in a month if he's paid $120,000 a year. Because there's 12 months in a year, that's $10,000 a month, right? If you do this properly, the magic fill handle should work beautifully. If you don't do it right, the magic fill handle is not going to work. Down here at the bottom of the totals, like in B18, we're using a sum function. Generally, if you want to add up a whole column of numbers, you don't do equals B2 plus B3 plus B4 plus B5 plus B6. There's a faster way. You use a sum function. Just like when we did the average function, we didn't type equals A2 plus B2 plus D2 divided by 3. My advice with the function is, first of all, spell it right. The spelling's in the instructions. It's a sum function. You haven't seen this one before, but it doesn't matter because they all work the same. You got your equal sign, you got your name of the function, you got your argument in parentheses, right? Remember all that? We did a whole freaking worksheet on this. You typed like 50 of these. Except some of them said average, some of them said min, some of them said max, one of them said count, this one says sum. Now, last piece of advice. Notice right here in the pension, and a lot of these say stuff like this. Pension is monthly salary, so it is equals monthly salary times 5%. The computer is smart enough for you literally just to type times 5%. If you don't want to do that, you are welcome to convert it yourself, 0.05. Because if you remember any of your math classes, you would know that 0.05 is equivalent to 5%, correct? Do not, however, do both. Because 0.05% is decidedly different than 5%. It's 100 times different, right? So pick one. The computer is smart enough to just do 5%. So should work great. Make that happen. Should be pretty easy. This whole part of this page that you're looking at is actually part 1 of this assignment. Part 2 is we're going to take these numbers after you got them all squeezed out there. We're going to take these numbers and we're going to turn it into charts and graphs, which is the new kind of, you've never heard of it before, kind of instruction for today. Okay, so work this over, make it all happen, get all the numbers filled in, and then we'll work on part 2 when that's taken care of by pretty much everybody. All right, so part number 2. We are going to take some of these numbers and turn them into charts and graphs. And Excel is really good at creating charts and graphs. It's actually pretty easy. The only part that's even difficult at all is knowing what information to feed the computer for creating the charts and graphs. First, kind of an example. Select from A1 to B17. Now notice that I said exactly A1 to B17. Okay, we're going to create a chart, a pie chart, that basically tells our board of directors where all of our $2.8 million worth of salary money went. So to create a pie chart or insert a pie chart, you just go up here to insert, and there's a chart section right here in the middle. Pie chart's in the bottom row. It's the round one. See that? It's right there. Boom. Pie chart. So easy that was. Now, notice something else. We're going to move these eventually somewhere else, but I just want to show you. You don't have to do this part. Just watch. If I just selected the numbers and inserted a pie chart, notice how the charts look suspiciously the same. But the differences will tell you exactly why I selected what I selected. Because the numbers didn't change. I got all the pie pieces here, right? They're exactly the same. What changed is, on this one, I selected the column header, which became the title, and I selected the names down the left-hand side, which ended up in the legend, so I knew which color of slice represented which person. Sometimes you're going to need that, sometimes you're not. But it all, whatever it is you need to display, dictates what kind of information you're going to select on the chart or on the sheet before you create the chart. Now also notice, I did not put the totals in there. There's a reason for that. Let me show you what it would look like. Why do I have half of my pie chart blue when I included the totals? When you're using a pie chart, the whole chart represents the totals, right? So if you add up all of these salaries that we're charting here, they equal $2.8 million. In this chart, we also added a figure of 2.8 million. So the slices become half, because this is now representing a total of somewhere around 3.7 million, which is not true. Okay, does that make sense? That's why I selected exactly where I selected, A1 to B17. Now, another thing that's kind of cool about this, you don't have to do this part either if you just want to watch. I can right-click this chart, which I like to do in the corner, because notice if you click on a particular part of the chart, it thinks you're trying to edit that part. I don't want to edit a part. I want to click on the entire chart, so kind of in the background there. And if I copy it, which I guess I could have done with Control-C on the keyboard, but I want to make it a little more visual, right? Let's say my presentation that I'm taking to the board of directors with this pie chart in it is in a PowerPoint. Well, if I have a PowerPoint open, I can paste that chart right in there. Because these programs are integrated, they call that. Most of the programs we use today are integrated, like the internet. You know, your web browser is integrated with word processing, meaning you can copy information or collect information from one and paste it in another. One of the things that bugs me about the way this program handles charts is that it puts it right on top of our numbers, which it kind of does on purpose because it doesn't really know what you want to do with it yet. But instead of, sometimes moving it off the numbers is your best option, because then when you print it, it prints all your numbers with the charts off to the side. But we're not going to do that. We're not going to just move it off of the numbers, because we're going to create a bunch more charts and it's just going to get messy. So we're going to move this chart to its own sheet. Now, once again, I got to right click the whole chart. That means I should pick like a corner. Not like on that little dot thingy. That's like I want to resize the chart. I'm just in the corner, like near the corner, and I right click. And you should get a pretty large right click menu here, and about halfway down is a selection for move chart. Click that. And you should get this move chart window. So first thing you're going to do is click to put it on a new sheet. And the second thing you're going to do is give it a name. I'm just going to call it pie chart because it's a freaking pie chart. You can call it whatever you want. And then notice when I hit enter, it puts this chart loud and proud on its own sheet. Notice what happened to your numbers. Where are they? Where are your numbers? Sheet 1, lower left-hand corner. You have sheet 1 now, and you have pie chart. So you, with that little new sheet window, you told the spreadsheet, the workbook, to open up a whole new worksheet, and you told it to give it the name of pie chart, so you know what's going on down here in the bottom left, and then it puts your chart on a whole new sheet, ready to roll. Pretty slick, huh? You can mess with this chart. And I personally, in a business situation, would highly recommend messing with it. Because you'll notice that your chart looks just like mine. You show up at a meeting with all of the basic, generic, default Excel charts, they're probably going to giggle a little bit. You're not going to impress anybody. When in fact, you can edit or mess with just about any part of this chart. For instance, if I click on the chart and then I click on one of the pieces, this is Al Pacino's piece, I can actually grab that and move it out. See that? I can right click this piece and go to Format Data Point, because each piece represents one data point, right? I can actually change its color. I got the fill bucket over here. I can tell it's solid fill. If I want people to pay attention to it, I'm going to make the sucker bright yellow. See what I'm saying? So now I go to my meeting, and that piece right there is very important because he is the biggest earner in our company. I can mess with any part of this chart I can click on or right click on. For instance, if I can click on the title, I can mess with it. I can make it a different color. I can make it a different size. I can underline it. I can bold it. I can change the font. I can change the background. I can really do whatever I want with it. I can actually grab it and move it out of the way. I can also right click on the background, which means that I can format it as well. Let's say I worked for Google. Now the background here is kind of interesting because I've got my fill options over here, but there's this one about halfway down that says picture or texture fill. So I have built-in textures like this, almost like papyrus texture, right? I got like water droplets, I got dead fish, I got green, whatever that is. Or I can do a picture from file. So let's say I'm working for like Google. I kind of want to impress them, show a little company spirit. So I put their logo in the background. If you've got a picture back there, you can mess with it with these offset. Now I think my legend's kind of in the way, so I'm going to move it up out of the way. The pie's got to move a little bit. And boom, I head off to my Google meeting and they think I'm $1 million. Not necessarily because I did an awesome job, but because I went above and beyond. Now, when I grade these, I am given points for customizing it. You can choose what to do there if you want. Notice this one thing right here. This is kind of interesting. If I go back to my numbers, notice that Al Pacino made $340,000 this year. What happens if he really didn't? He only made $34,000 that year. Notice that all of my calculations updated automatically. Now I've only got 2.5 million, but also notice that my pie chart updated automatically. Also notice that the pie chart in my PowerPoint updated automatically. Isn't that crazy? However, Al Pacino really did make $340,000 last year, so let's put it back the way it was. But because the programs are fully integrated, they talk to each other, which is kind of cool. So if you're not done customizing, it's fine. You can fill in the blanks later. Finish it up. Back to sheet 1. For chart number 2, we're going to use the exact same selection, A1 to B17. Notice I didn't go down to B18, A1 to B17. Then this time we are going to insert a column chart. Top row, kind of on the left. I like the 3-dimensional ones, but you can do a 2D one if you want. I don't really care. Column chart. Same exact numbers, different kind of chart. It is almost personal preference, but not quite. Think about this for a second. If you had both of these charts, and Excel makes it easy for you to figure this out, because you can just make both charts. If you had both of these charts side by side, which one of these communicates those numbers better to your audience visually? Now that's kind of a choice you'd have to make, but in my opinion for this one, notice Al Pacino's our biggest earner, right? And you can tell in the column chart that he's like light years ahead of anybody else. But if you look at the pie chart, here's his piece in the back. His piece doesn't even look anywhere near as big as Mia Farrow's piece, does it? But it is. He made $340,000. She only made $270,000. He like cleared her totals by $50,000. But notice how the pie chart doesn't do that very well. Okay, so in some cases, one chart is better than the other, clearly, depending on what you're trying to show. For me, I don't generally use pie charts if I have more than like 5 data points I'm trying to display. We are going to go ahead and move this chart to its own sheet, just like we did the last one. You can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it a column chart because it's a column chart. And then, yes, you should customize it. All right, so next chart. So back at sheet 1. So this one, I would recommend following along with kind of close. This one's going to be a little more difficult. We are going to build a chart that shows all of our employees where all of their money goes. For instance, Woody Allen right here makes $10,000 a month, right? But he only takes home $6,500. Poor guy. Where'd all that money go? Well, we're going to build a chart that shows that. Okay, so we're going to start by selecting A1 to A17 because I want names attached to numbers, right? And then to select other columns, I'm going to hold down the Control key on my keyboard because I don't just want to select all the columns to tell him where all his money goes. But what I'm going to do with the Control key down with my left hand, I'm going to select from D1 to D17 and from F1 to H17. Okay, then you can let go of the Control key. Now, the problem with using the Control key is that if you screw something up, you cannot fix it. You have to start over. So to start over with no Control key, you would do A1 to A17, then Control key, D1 to D17, and F1 to H17, just like that. Then we are going to insert another column chart, but this time we're going to pick that one on the bottom that's capable of representing multiple data series. If the chart you built looks like this, you did it right. If it looks like anything else under the sun, your problem was with data selection. Guaranteed. So once again, no Control key. You're going to do from A1 to A17. Then hold down a Control key, D1 to D17 and F1 to H17. Let go of the Control key, insert column chart. Same drill. We're going to move it to its own sheet. Give it whatever name you want. Notice this one doesn't have a title because there were multiple columns. The computer didn't know which one to pick. But if you get up in there, you can actually give it a title. It doesn't really matter that it doesn't have one. You can, like I said, you can edit any part of the chart that you can click on or right click on. Now, once you got it moved to a sheet, of course, this one should be customized as well. And then the last chart you're going to build for me is any chart you want to build. You do your own. You select the data, you make a chart that looks cool. If you look in the chart area, the insert chart area, you'll notice that we have scatter plots, we have line graphs, we have bubble charts, we have radar charts, surface charts. We've got all kinds of charts that we haven't even talked about yet. Select some numbers, pick a cool chart. When you turn this in, I should see one sheet with all the numbers filled in. And I should see 4 charts, 3 that we did together, 1 you did on your own. All 4 should be customized. That's what I'm giving points for.